Hello everybody, this is Mr. Matthews. This is a catch-up for English students doing GCSE studying Macbeth, and I'm going to explain to you how Macbeth self-destructs. So, my argument is that Macbeth is not evil as such. He is basically a good and decent man who is loyal to King Duncan at the start, but he has a fatal flaw. His flaw is ambition. His ambition to become the King of Scotland, he thinks that is going to bring him happiness and fulfillment, and it doesn't. And in the end, it brings him down. I think that what Shakespeare is actually saying is that we should be satisfied with the position that we are in the hierarchy. Macbeth should have been satisfied with being a servant of King Duncan and being one of King Duncan's generals and supporting him. And instead he went beyond that to want to become king, which he had no right to be king. I think Shakespeare actually believed that if you had no right to be king, to try and become king was completely the wrong thing to do. So I think that this is a play about overreaching. It's a play about going beyond the position that God, if you like, or nature has put you in. That is going to be my argument, okay? So, at the start of the play, at the beginning of the play, Macbeth is a loyal person, and he is the Thane of Glamis. And he has won a battle against the Thane of Cawdor, who has been a rebel against King Duncan. And King Duncan thinks very well of Macbeth. And I think that Shakespeare believed that loyalty was important. Shakespeare believed that Macbeth should have been completely loyal to King Duncan. This idea of loyalty, I think, was a big thing for Shakespeare, okay? So I think that his disloyalty, shall we say, was extremely important. Now, when he and Banquo confronts the three witches, something stirs within him, and that is ambition. He realizes that he could become the King of Scotland, and instead of being satisfied with his position as a loyal servant of King Duncan, that gnaws inside him. They say, "All hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king forever." And he thinks, what? Me being king? Me being king? That's impossible. And then he thinks to himself, well, why not? Now it is that thinking about that stirring inside of the ambition, that is what is really kind of driving him forward. And that's what or I say driving him forward, I'd actually say driving him backward. That is what will destroy him. That overweening, that vaulting ambition, okay? So, his tragic flaw is ambition. So I want you to write that down. And I quote from here as well. In Macbeth, ambition is presented as a dangerous quality. It causes the downfall of both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and triggers a series of deaths in Macbeth. Macbeth's ambition is driven by a number of factors, including prophecy. The Macbeth witches prophesied that Macbeth will become king. Macbeth believes them, and the various prophecies are realised throughout the play. His wife, Lady Macbeth, is the driving force. So, what role does Lady Macbeth play? Well, she realises that he has this ambition. She would love to be the ruler of Scotland herself, but she can only do this through her husband because, as you are already been taught, in terms of the play, it's very much a male dominating society. So she taunts Macbeth. She says, "Oh, you want to be the King of Scotland, but you're too chicken to do it. Come on, you can do it," and this sort of thing. You can put the quotes in yourself. But essentially, she drives Macbeth to do the deed. Now, he doesn't know whether he should do it or not do it. I think you need to imagine Macbeth got two choices. One choice is to stay loyal to King Duncan, to ignore the prophecies of the witches, and to remain loyal. That's what Shakespeare thinks he should do. The other way is to go down the path that's going to lead to his destruction. And he chooses the path of destruction because ambition is just too much for him to resist. This is his tragic flaw. If he had not done that, he would have been a respected and noble figure. But then, of course, we wouldn't have had a play. So that's why, in a sense, he must self-destruct. So the killing of Duncan. This is the thing that will destroy Macbeth. He should be loyal to King Duncan. King Duncan is his social superior. I think Shakespeare believed that there had to be a hierarchical society and that people had to know their place in society. I think that was the society that Shakespeare lived in. And I think that he was very interested in the English history plays. And in the English history plays about the Middle Ages, there's a lot of trouble caused because some people are ambitious, and they want to take the throne when they've got no right to take the throne. And I think he takes this idea forward into Macbeth. It's the idea of disloyalty. You must be loyal to those who are set above you in the social hierarchy. Loyalty is a very important thing indeed, okay? So, the killing of Duncan, very important, obviously. But he finds no joy in that. In order to maintain his position as King of Scotland, once he becomes King of Scotland, he doesn't find happiness. He's aware that he has enemies around him who could take that throne away, so he has to commit even more violence. And then, of course, we get the killing of Banquo. And he hires murderers to kill Banquo. So in a sense, at least he actually kills King Duncan himself. But now he's hiring the killers to finish off Banquo. Because Banquo is a threat to his authority, to his position as the new King of Scotland, okay? Then he meets the witches again. And he takes heart from something which, of course, in the end turns out to be completely ephemeral. This does not happen. Be lion mettled, proud, and take no care, who chafes, who frets, or where conspirers are. Macbeth shall never vanquished be, until great Birnam wood to high Dunsinane hill shall come against him, and then of no woman born, and all of that comes in. And he thinks, oh, I'm invincible. He knows that Macduff is his nemesis, the one who, if anybody will destroy him, it will be Macduff. So he knows that. But he's confident now. And of course, he has, through again his contract killers, he has Lady Macbeth murdered and her son. And that, of course, is the most appalling crime of all, to kill a child. I mean, he's already killed a king. He's also killed a child. He's got so much evil. He's descended into evil. And this is the idea of self-destruction again, okay? And then, after Lady Macbeth commits suicide, he says tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So he's built himself up with the murder of King Duncan to become King of Scotland and to really enjoy the whole business of being King of Scotland. And it is not joyful at all. It is not joyful at all. It is horrendous. And he realizes now what a pointless thing it was to do. So he says, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, my life is pointless to the last syllable of recorded time. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player. If only he had not allowed ambition to take him over. If only he had not allowed Lady Macbeth to taunt him and to sort of push him towards the murder of King Duncan. And in a sense, if only he had not done that. If you kind of imagine Macbeth being able to replay his life and go back to that point where he is going along the chamber to murder King Duncan. Is this a dagger I see before him? He says that. If he had said no, if he had put the dagger down and said no, he is my king. I have received him into my castle. He has put trust in me. If I do this, I kill all that trust. I destroy all that trust. If he had done that, if he had not done that at that particular point, if he had put the dagger down, if he had put that dagger down and refused to do it and said, no, get thee behind me, Satan. Ambition is evil, pushed it away, then how much happier we could have been. So that, the killing of Duncan, the killing of Banquo, the killing of Lady Macbeth, Lady Macduff and her son, all of that, the prophecies of the witches mean nothing. That's just something that completely fools him, and that leads to that. So I'm going to do that again. That ultimately leads to that. If you go against the idea of loyalty, if you go above your position in society, then you will self-destruct and your life will become utterly meaningless. Okay. Now, Macduff is the man who will finish him off. I've said in a previous Loom lecture about the role of providence. I think Shakespeare believed that God was ultimately in charge and that good will triumph over evil. So Macduff will destroy the thing of evil which Macbeth has become. I'll say that again. Macduff will destroy the thing of evil that Macbeth has become. So he kills Macbeth, chops off his head, holds it up. Remember what happened to the gunpowder plotters at the time. Think of the disloyalty of Guy Fawkes towards King James I. That can be brought in as well. You can bring in that idea too. In fact, you can bring a lot about the gunpowder plot into this, because that is all about a group of people who are utterly disloyal to their king. And although they weren't successful, they obviously didn't kill King James. It's that idea of disloyalty, okay? And Malcolm will become the new King of Scotland, with Macduff bringing him his head and saying, no, you can restore the order. You can restore the rightful order. So although it's violent, although it's pretty vicious stuff, it is the working out of God's providence. If you go against the law of God, if you go against what God has put in the universe, so just think of the great chain of being. Okay, just think of the great chain of being, and if you go against the great chain of being, that is what will happen. So my conclusion: a tragic hero, and I think I would agree that he is a tragic hero. So let's have a look at why he is a hero to begin with. He's a person of high rank. He is noble, honourable, and highly respected. His strengths are courage and honour. Now, it's got ambition there. I'm not so sure about whether that should be a strength. I think that should be a weakness. But nevertheless, courage and honour are part of his strengths. His weaknesses, his tragic flaws, he listens to prophecies told by the witches, and his desire to be king allows his wife to manipulate him and his ambitious desires. It could be that that's put in there because ambition itself is not a bad thing. It's just that Macbeth's ambition goes beyond what ambition should give you. He should just be ambitious to be the best person he can, loyal to his king. He suffers a fall which brings disaster to others. So if you think who loses their life because of this of this flaw in his character, well, you think it's almost everybody, isn't it? It's first of all it's Duncan, then it's Banquo, then it's Lady Macbeth and her son, then it's himself, and also his wife, and all those who were killed as well in that final battle between the forces of Macbeth and the forces of Macduff. These are more anonymous figures, but they lose their lives as well. So because of that tragic flaw, all those people lose their lives, and Macbeth loses his life. So Macbeth is not intrinsically evil, but his tragic fault is ambition and listening to that prophecy that the witches gave at the start. So that, in a sense, is also the idea of evil, because the three witches, by talking about ambition, they help to bring Macbeth down. Okay? So that is in, how many slides have I got? Overall, I've got 12 slides. That is the way in which Macbeth self-destructs. Thank you for listening, everybody.